All right, everyone. Steve Metrics here at Db8 Sports. Your boy DJ TRIGGS will be joining us here shortly in a little bit. He's a little bit caught in traffic, but he should be here. Should be good. And for tonight's show, we are talking about the playoff push. So we have a lot of teams that are starting to make that push for the playoffs. And what are some of their schedules looking at for the remainder of the season? Do they have a clear path to the playoffs? Do they have a really tough schedule? Is there anything that could shake up their positioning from what they're currently at, maybe falling back a bit? And that is definitely possible with quite a few of these teams. So we got that. And we also got some MVP odds to talk about. So definitely something to point out. And here's a little bit of a taste of what we're looking at here. So we'll be talking about these players moving forward, and definitely with last night's game for the Miami Dolphins, kind of a bummer, but definitely Tyreek Hill took a hit to those odds that he had. He was probably one of the favorites to be up there for MVP. But when you miss out on games because of injury, and I still think, too, you still have to hold the game that he lost against Kansas City against him. I think that still matters, and that is still absolutely a determining factor, because if you're valuable, you have to be winning games. If you lose a game because of your direct contribution to what caused the loss of that game, then that absolutely needs to be held against you. So I think Tyreek Hill absolutely had that happen from the Kansas City game. And now being injured, he's going to fall short of that 2,000 yardage marker that he was definitely on pace for. But things change. So that is definitely what's going on there. And we'll see what other players are on track, whether they're quarterbacks, running backs. Is there a wide receiver that's still in the grouping as well? Or do we just scrap offense altogether and really look at it from a defensive standpoint, knowing that if these offenses aren't really up to speed with where they've been in the past and aren't putting up those crazy numbers, then maybe we should really give credit to where it is due, and that is on the defensive side. So I've heard a few different names being put out there, and I definitely feel there's a strong case for Myles Garrett for MVP with what he's done with Cleveland, securing that defense. And he's definitely at the forefront of the defensive player of the year. My guy, Max Crosby, is kind of up there as well for that defensive player of the year. And it is a pretty cool pace that those players are on. Even Micah Parsons with Dallas is doing some really incredible things too. So those three guys defensively are, in my eyes, doing a lot of value on the defensive side of things. And even though those teams may not necessarily have the wins that are happening because of what they do on defense, two of those three teams are clearly winning because of what they have on defense. So it is pretty cool what's going on there. So that is pretty good. So that's kind of what we got going on there. And yeah, so that is what's happening. So we got that there. And we're just waiting on our boy DJ TRIGGS here to join us. And we'll see what happens there. So just want to give a shout out to anyone who's out there checking in to see what other times we're on. We're on every Monday and Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central. So you can always stream us alongside Monday Night Football. You got that going on. And we're up there 7 o'clock Central and Tuesdays, same time, same place. So we got that going on here. So we got that going on. So let's take a look at some of these teams that we're thinking about. And if we look at some of these teams, let's see who is out there, right? So I think when we look at some of these teams like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Miami Dolphins, it really seems like they're really going in the wrong direction. And these were both teams that were definitely at the forefront of the playoffs, especially for the majority of the season. Up until now, both those teams were basically winning almost every single game but three. So they were pretty much X and 3 for the longest amount of time. And even teams like Dallas is kind of one of those teams that's X and 3. But the thing with Dallas is they're playing at such a high level, they're probably not on pace to really lose any game moving forward, possibly. I mean, I know they do have a pretty big game coming up. I do want to say against the Baltimore Ravens, and let's take a look at that. So I'm bringing up their schedule, and we'll see what's going on here. So it is not the Ravens. I'm mixing them up for a different team. But let's see what's going on there with that. And let me hide that banner. There you go. I'm back. All right. So here we go. Let's add another. Oh, let's see if I can do that. All right. All right. Let's try this again. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to add a screen and see if we can get up the Dallas Cowboys schedule and see what it's looking at here. So I think we're looking good here. Yep. And here we go. So what we're looking at is the remaining schedule for the Dallas Cowboys, and they're pretty much going on a real heater here. They're looking really good over their last several games, doing well against Washington, Seattle, Philadelphia, and trying to get the cursor here to cooperate with us to kind of see what their schedule was. I want to bring that up. And the internet's being a little difficult here. So let's try this here. Oh, hold up now. Coming back to StreamYard. Yeah, there he is.
Hello.
All right, here we go.
Sir. How are you?
What up? You there, bud?
My voice is a little deep, just so you know. It hasn't come all
Oh,
the
I
way
got
back
you.
yet.
Yeah, I got you, man. I got you. Yeah, good to have you back. The internet's being a little bit wonky. I'm noticing tonight. But great to have you back. Just started talking a little bit about some of these teams that I think are either trending in the right direction, especially with the remainder of their schedule, or the teams that are trailing in the wrong direction with the remainder of the schedule. And the team that I was just looking at was Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what about Dallas?
The fact that I think they're like, when I think of these teams that are kind of like X and 3 and pretty much had about 3 or so losses, and now are they either accumulating more losses or are they pretty much stopping that? And are they going to be the ones laying down the punishment on an opposing team for the remainder of their schedule? I think Dallas can definitely be one of those teams. I mean, I look at their next 2 games, and I absolutely think they should clean house on both of their games. I think they should absolutely win against Buffalo and a Miami Dolphins team with or without Tyreek Hill. I'm really not that scared of at this point. I think there's definitely a formula now on how you can play against Tyreek Hill. And I think about it. I think about what the Titans. I mean, yeah, he got hurt. But if you think about it, if Tyreek Hill just lines up outside, put 2 guys on him, beat him up on the first line of scrimmage, and make it so that it's a real pain in the butt for that guy to get open. And then if he's running around and he's in motion have guys cover him, have guys pass him off to another, and make it so it's just tough for that guy to ever get into open space. And I think if that guy's held under 100 yards, that team is not the same team. Miami is not as terrifying as they once were when Tyreek Hill was running loose all over the place.
But remember, even back like a couple weeks ago, I called Miami the AFC Dallas Cowboys because they hadn't beaten anyone with a winning record, just like the Cowboys did. So like Miami, to me, hasn't really scared anyone. They've always been that next tier of teams. But now even the top tier teams, besides you could kind of say Baltimore, but they've been a little wonky sometimes. But like Kansas City, Miami, Baltimore, like even Cleveland at one
Philadelphia.
point. No, I was saying AFC side.
Oh, yeah. I gotcha.
Like, there's no real like top team in the AFC right now.
Correct. Yeah, the AFC is pretty much almost completely wide open. I feel like when that playoff tournament starts on that side of the bracket, it could be pure chaos. It could be someone deep causing some damage. I mean, I still feel if a team like a Houston or a Buffalo is in, they're going to cause damage. And I even feel too, like, give Jacksonville some time. If Trevor Lawrence really comes back and he's healthy and they can clean up that secondary a little bit, I think that team can absolutely be a problem. I think that team has so many problems to deal with on offense that they could make it happen. And that's why I'm with you. I just don't feel the teams at the top of the AFC are just stone cold locks to get through. I mean, seeing Baltimore struggle against the Rams, struggle against the Cardinals, that gives you a pause for concern for sure.
Right. And it's weird because then like now you kind of look at the NFC and now there's teams separating themselves.
Yes.
And like you still kind of wonder like who they'll play on the AFC side, and it's strange. It's kind of strange.
It is. And even though Green Bay fell a little bit short against a team like the Giants, I still like Green Bay's chances and path to victory. And even if they don't win the division, I still think that is a team that is going to be stronger going into the postseason than a Detroit, who, unless Detroit's playing at home on turf or they're maybe in Dallas on turf, I just don't think Detroit can get it done. I mean, it is shocking how bad they are outdoors. And more than that, how many turnovers Jared Goff is doing over the last 3 weeks is mind-blowing.
Right. And the weird part about Detroit is like their defense was like the thing of the beginning of the season.
Right.
And they were also beating, less stellar teams.
Yep.
And it's so weird to watch them kind of get like manhandled by Chicago and Green Bay. And like they're just kind of rolling down the hill now and holding on because, Green Bay loses and Minnesota barely hangs on against Las Vegas. And like Detroit is kind of, like I said earlier, like they're a one and done. I mean, they may beat somebody by accident, but yeah, they don't scare anyone.
They don't. And I don't think any of these teams who don't get in are going to be that, or don't get in as a division winner, are going to be that scared to go to Detroit. Give Detroit one home game and send a team like the Rams or the Packers or the Eagles to Detroit, and I think it can change. Granted, with Philadelphia, I mean, there's definitely an injury factor going on with Jalen Hurts, but man, maybe Detroit wins one game, but after that, going against the real divisional leaders of the NFC, whether it's a Dallas or San Francisco, that would not go well for a team like Detroit.
Right. I'm trying to line up the standings to see where they would be.
Yeah. I think the other interesting team that I want
At
us to
least in the
look
first
at,
game.
yeah, I would love for us to look at possibly the LA Rams. That I think you and I are on the same page that this team is much different than whatever their record is. And especially early in the season, they lost way too many games they had no business losing, like the Bengals game to begin with. And even this Ravens game was a game they definitely had a shot at winning. It just feels like that's a team that they have some really good pieces on offense. I mean, that Kyron Williams running back is easily one of the best running backs in the NFL, and I never saw that coming.
Yeah, that's one of those where it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, between him
So
and Puka
like
Nacua,
with the
like
Rams,
wow.
they have Washington, New Orleans, the Giants, and San Francisco. And the scary part is San Francisco's probably not even going to be playing them in that last game because they'll probably have the
Right.
number 1 seed locked up. So they have
Correct.
4 very winnable games.
True. And even back when the 49ers played them at full strength, the Rams were actually doing really well in that game and had a shot to win that game. So if you really put in second stringers against the Rams, they will win that game. So I think at this point, and the Giants are on an absolute tear right now against anybody. Like it is crazy watching that team right now. But I think the Rams could at least win 3 of those games for sure.
Yeah. That and the Rams having that easy of a schedule, like that's why my heart completely was like boom and broken when the Packers couldn't close out the Rams. Such disappointment because they could have been tied. Actually, they could have had the 6th seed right now, but instead they're
Okay.
tied for the 7 with 5 other teams.
Gotcha.
New Orleans. Now it's like you have to win these games when you had a game handed to you with the Giants and they just didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing is too. Like when you look at the remaining schedule for like the last 4 weeks, and you say to yourself that yeah, we should win all 4 of those. Man, I can tell you. I mean, I've been there at times, even being as a Raider and thinking about okay, who do we have to beat to get in? We did this 2 years ago after the Gruden firing, and got there with Rick Bisaccia and won the games we needed. We went on a tear and got in, but I can tell you, looking at the schedule and saying that we can win those games and actually doing it are 2 totally different things. You think it's easy, and then you get into the games and you're like, oh man, we're actually in a dogfight. This team is actually not as bad as we thought, and we have to go toe to toe with this team. And it's tough. I mean, I can even say from a Raider perspective, us playing against the Jets, our game against the Giants went fairly easily, but our game against the Jets was just tough. It was a gritty game, and I think that's what fell into the Packers yesterday was the Giants were actually much grittier than you thought.
No. I actually the Giants, they did not look they looked beatable. The problem was we didn't have Christian Watson originally.
Yeah.
Then just about everybody went, like every wide receiver went out of that game. Right now, I screenshotted this morning.
Yeah.
The Packers only have 3 healthy wide receivers on their books right now.
Okay.
Romeo Doubs, undrafted rookie Malik Heath, and Samari Toure. And that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously Aaron Jones is hurt.
Yep.
Mr. 3 yards a carry, AJ Dillon, again, didn't do anything. Like, and Luke Musgrave, the number 1 tight end, is on IR. So like we just looked so depleted yesterday that it was almost like even look at that 2-point conversion.
Sure.
You run a jet sweep on a 2-point conversion. Like,
yeah, that's desperate.
yeah,
That is very desperate. It's one thing to do that when you're maybe 10 to 20 yards deep from the end zone, but to do it when you're 2, that doesn't look good. When you're doing that kind of stuff and you're trying to think along that mindset, it should really be to almost like the Rob Gronkowski kind of play, where he lines up, you kind of imitate something like that, and then the guy gets wide open. That's where that kind of play is such a deceptive win. But when you're doing a jet sweep for 2 yards, it doesn't go well because everyone can see it develop. They're not scared of it like you are in the open field. When you're at the goal line, there's not a lot of space to go, so the jet sweep isn't as formidable as it would be with open field.
Right, and they ran so many running plays through Jaden Reed, and then when he got hurt, it was kind of like, okay, now we have no offense at all.
Right.
And it was a struggle. I mean, you know how I feel about A.J. Dillon, but getting 15 carries and only having 50 yards is like, you shouldn't be a running back in the NFL anymore. Like,
no,
that's really bad.
It is. And I want to say earlier today, too, I saw Jimmy Johnson on, I think it was Fox, and he was saying, too, that he wants to give the ball to the guys making the plays. If you're a running back, you have to be getting 4 to 5 yards of carry. If you're a running back and you're getting 3 or less, you're not going to be getting the ball as much. That needs to happen. They need to rotate guys in. And obviously, the head coach got upset at, I think his name's Tucker, the running back for the Packers, who didn't run out of bounds when you need to understand the game clock.
Oh.
And yeah,
Patrick Taylor.
And that's football 101. You need to know that. You need to know the basics when it comes to that. But the thing is, if A.J. Dillon's not getting it done, then just like a starting pitcher in baseball, rotate the other guys in. See who can get that yardage, who can get me the 4 to 5 yards of carry. If he's got a hot hand, he's got some twitch, roll with him, see what happens. And that wasn't happening. Part.
Patrick Taylor was getting 7 yards of carry.
He had
4 carries.
That's 4. Terrible.
Yep. And he had a long of 14 yards, and A.J. Dillon's long was 8. Yep. And that's why they ran Jaden Reed so much. They ran him into the ground. Like, he had 4 carries for 40 yards, and like
half of them were a jet sweep.
Yeah, and Tucker Kraft, who's the backup tight end, led the team in receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean, I do like seeing a tight end lead the team in yardage, but if that's going on, there still needs to be that other receiver that's close, or just as a whole, the wide receiver coverage has to be good. You know, like, it has to be there all together. It can't just be a tight end as an outlier, like you say.
Right. And if they would give Kenyon Drake a shot, it might be too late, because now Aaron Jones might actually be back. And so, like, hopefully they use Aaron Jones, because when he's been out there, he's been electric. But they brought in James Robinson too. You know, we talked about that last week, and they didn't use him either. So it's like,
I think with James Robinson, I just don't think at this point, that coaching staff has definitely seen what they've seen. He was even in New York as well. If they're seeing enough between that and where he is now, and they're just saying it's not as good as A.J. Dillon, then he's probably just done. It just isn't good anymore with James Robinson. That's what I'm concerned with. I think they need a dynamic player like Greg is pointing out here that, hey, give Kenyon Drake a shot, man. I do think that guy has that athleticism that you need.
Right. I agree. But, like, I just don't understand why this coaching staff has not seen all year that A.J. Dillon is not good. Like, they keep giving him 10, 15 carries a game. Remember, there was talks about splitting Jones's carries with Dillon. It's like, dude,
that's not
this
happening.
guy, he can't do anything. And then he's supposed to be this big, like,
bruiser,
burly back, And he can't even get you 2 yards when he needs to get those 2 yards, like a third and short or a goal line and like short. And it's like, what is this guy good for?
I do think, though, he does catch a pretty good ball. There are times where that guy can get open middle of the field and he catches a nice ball. But if that's the case, I think he needs to really be more focused as a fullback and not as a true every down kind of back like he is without Jones being out there. I just don't think that's right. And I think a guy like Kenyon Drake or that Patrick Taylor needs to be out there at least splitting carries until you need A.J. Dillon for certain plays.
Agreed. And like he catches a good ball because usually he's schemed open.
Yes.
Like, it's not like he's doing some like special stuff. Like he's just, check down guy. And then he goes.
Right. I give him credit for that. I mean, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but if you are schemed to get open, you make your catch, and you do produce. I'm good with that. Getting those results and that production matters. But when it comes to the majority of your workload of what the job dictates and you're not getting it done there, then someone else needs to be in that role.
Yeah, I'm just so over that guy that I'm just like, I'm done. I don't need him on my team anymore. I need him to just kind of go away. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a great guy, fan favorite. He's a great follow on Twitter. I love the guy for that. But when it comes to production on the football field, it's not there. He in the fantasy realm of things, and because this guy bit me hard ever since the day I drafted him, and I've tried going to the well with him a few times, and it still hasn't worked. A.J. Dillon reminds me a lot of Elijah Moore, and it hurts.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it hurts. So, yeah, that's what I got to say about Elijah Moore. Yep. So, all right, but I mean, let's take that one New York Giant game out of the look of things and look at the remainder of the Green Bay Packers schedule. I think all three of the games they have remaining are winnable. And I can tell you, especially that Minnesota game, with us being the team that just played Minnesota, I think it is very winnable for you guys because Minnesota clearly does not know what it's doing on offense now. It has completely fallen apart. For us with the Raiders, we actually decimated their entire offensive line. We almost got them to the point where they actually needed to put in a tight end to play offensive line, despite TJ Hawkinson being out there as well. They were that depleted that I think they either had one left or they had nobody left, and all the guys they had available were actually on the field. So their offensive line is completely in shambles now. Between that, no Justin Jefferson, no Kirk Cousins, I don't know. I didn't feel like I've gotten the word today that Nick Mullins will be the starter for the Minnesota Vikings in their next game. But I just got the feeling that the previous quarterback, Josh Dobbs, was almost like a starting pitcher in a baseball game, like I've referred to, where the guy's just gotten beaten up so many times. His offensive line is terrible. He's being rushed. He's being pressured. He's way too frazzled when it comes to that, and you can't blame the guy. So bringing a fresh guy off the bench who isn't seeing that, who can make fast reads, has a cannon, that's your guy. And I think that's what happened. But I think now moving forward, Nick Mullins will be the guy.
I was going to refuse to talk about the Raiders-Vikings game.
You have them as an opponent, so you guys got to kind of get a heads up on what's going on with Minnesota.
No, your Raiders hurt me so bad.
I know. We needed to win that game for you, bud, and we did not get it done.
No. I didn't even care about winning. Just score a point. Score a point. That's all you needed. Score 3 points.
That's true. And we had a great Hunter Renfrow play, and then Hunter Renfrow did not deliver immediately after that, and that's why we couldn't score.
No. I'm not. You can't blame Hunter Renfrow. You guys didn't even play him for like half the season. You were like, this guy doesn't matter. And now he just comes into games and he's like, oh, I'm going to catch balls and I'm going to take off on people.
He did.
He's getting more yards than Devontae Adams is right now. Like, that's nuts.
That is true. And I feel too that I think at this point, I mean, yeah, we're gonna basically hold him for ransom against the New York Jets. If they bite and we get picks up the wazoo, we'll take him. But I look at a guy like Devontae Adams, and now I say flat out, he's got to go. We need to get capital. We need to get as much draft capital as we can. Like you pointed out, he's just not part of the offense anymore, and it needs to change. And we need to figure out what our future is at quarterback as well. So, but that's the thing, is we're one of these teams using a backup quarterback, and yeah, you know how it is. It's pretty rough for a lot of those teams in the NFL, and we're one of them.
I don't know how it is, because
you don't, because you are actually one of those that has your quarterback of the future and looks good. Like I pointed out on yesterday's episode, there's about 12 teams that are sitting pretty at quarterback. Green Bay is one of those 12.
Like, Devontae Adams had 10 targets yesterday and 7 catches. He barely had 50 yards.
Yeah.
Now, I like Aiden O'Connell, but like at some point you have to throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, you do. Let it rip.
You can't average 5 yards a throw. Like,
oh, that's bad.
That is horrible.
That is real bad. That is not going to get it done.
No.
I even wonder too, and like this kind of goes back to fantasy and kind of what I discussed early in the season. And I had this strategy, and it made me avoid a certain quarterback who's actually possibly the best quarterback statistically wise, not in honesty wise. But I chose to not draft both Jared Goff and Brock Purdy because they had the same bye week. I think at this point, if I would have known the results of where we are now, I would have said, screw it. I'll figure it out. When that bye week comes, I'm dropping one of them. That's exactly what I should have done.
Yeah. Jared Goff would have been dropped. You would have been fine.
Exactly. Jared Goff is really showing that he's definitely one of those, let's call it 20 quarterbacks that your franchise does not believe in you moving forward for like many, many years to come. And this was the year that Jared Goff had to deliver to solidify his future. And they will absolutely start figuring out how to move on from him, especially if he loses his offensive coordinator to a starting coaching or to a head coaching job in the offseason.
Now, I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but we're talking about the Raiders-Vikings game.
Sure.
But, like, this shows, and I know people like to poop on the guy, but, like, this shows how good Kirk Cousins is.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Like, this team is not even the same team with any other quarterback. That dude was lighting people up for 300 yards a game.
He was. And like, I think at the time, I mean, I think he was up for MVP. I think his numbers were right there with CJ Stroud's. And then he tears his Achilles. But I think at the moment he tears his Achilles, he's still like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it's crazy how good he was, and especially the chemistry with Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm. Like, they got him weapons, and that dude was like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm actually kind of good. Like, yes. I take pay cuts on purpose, but
yes.
like, I'm pretty good.
And the thing is, too, seeing a guy like that, seeing a guy like Tom Brady, the huge news of the day today of Shohei Ohtani essentially saying, yeah, I'm just going to play for like bare minimum $2 million per year moving forward. And when my career is over, I'm 0.6 of a billionaire. No, that's real, man.
He will be a billionaire. He makes $50 million in endorsements every year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. I did not know that. So you're spot on, man. He will absolutely be a billionaire, just like LeBron James. And that's pretty awesome.
It's awesome for the player. Like, I'm glad we're bringing this up.
We have to.
It's awesome for the player, but it is so bad for Major League Baseball. So bad.
Yeah, I think it's bad in the sense that like teams are now starting to have to figure out like I mean this is why the NFL and its cap is so dominant and so strong at what it is. But I think it still matters too because having players do what like a Tom Brady did matters. When you're trying to do something like that, like even when Drew Brees did it, it mattered. That's what it takes. But in baseball, where there is truly no salary cap, it is going to be devastating. I mean, we're looking at a future where it's going to basically be the Dodgers, the Yankees are going to take a page out of this book, the Astros, and the Braves. Those four teams are run better than all the other teams in the MLB almost combined, and it's going to take a lot of creativity in the books, or it's going to take some kind of cap in MLB to really solve this. Because what the Dodgers did is incredibly game changing, even amongst MLB teams that have money. What the intelligence is that the Dodgers did even surpasses money with that deal.
Because, like, think about it. In 10 years, a $60 million, $70 million player might be a low ball number. Because, I mean, it's been moving up in every sport. Guys are making $50 million a year. And, like, for them to defer that payment and basically get the best player in baseball on a minimum deal, like you said, they can go out and get anybody they want. They legit have 4 MVP candidates: Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei, and who am I missing here? Why is my brain is like blanking on baseball?
I don't know,
but that's at least 3.
Yes, and we
Max
know they're going
Muncy's
to have
out
more.
there.
Yes,
Max Muncy, like, that's insane.
it is,
Oh,
and it's I know you'll get it, bud. But I know it's also a destination that players want to play for, and especially too with a team like the Padres just south of them, who was making deal after deal after deal. But then a couple days ago too, they lose Juan Soto to the Yankees. That's kind of weird. But they're trying to spend to keep up with the Dodgers and stuff. But it's almost like now that's almost like an antique compared to what the Dodgers are doing and being progressive and trying to lowball these offers, knowing that 10 years from now they're going to be at such an evaluation that it's literally a deal of paying someone that amount, because 10 years from now, like you said, it's going to be much cheaper than what it would be if they were. I mean, regardless, it's just going to be cheaper moving forward. No matter how they structure that deal, they are saving money. But it's just better to back end it than it is to front end it, or even go heavier. Yeah, it's just better to back end than it is front end when it comes to those deals.
Right. And I mean, yeah, by the end of the deal, he'll be, Albert Pujols out there,
Right.
like, just making money, not doing anything.
Yeah.
But in the next 5 years, the dude's a stud. Like,
and I put it this way too, like, I think the Dodgers are going to do him right. I would think right now, 10-year deal, that guy is never a starting pitcher again. He should never be a starting pitcher. Have that guy do something in relief when you need it, because you'll always keep him fresh if you structure him like that, and you'll get the majority of the peak of his career in that 10-year deal. Where if you put him out there as a starting pitcher, I honestly think you're going to cut it in half. I think you're going to run that guy into the ground like the Angels tried to do.
I mean, he had surgery, so he can't pitch next year anyway.
Perfect. So,
and when you're batting .304 and hitting 44 home runs, I don't think you need to bat, I don't think you need to pitch.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I like that. I like the way that he plays and do that stuff. And that's a great point by James. I actually heard that as well, that when it comes close to the end of his career, he could do something to just get up and get out of town to avoid the taxes.
That's
for sure.
Actually why the deferment, like that was part of what I heard his camp put the deferment in for, is he's going to go back to Japan.
Smart.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a soccer deal in a way, where at that point now he pulls a Cristiano Ronaldo or he pulls a Lionel Messi and just goes to a different place with a completely different tax system altogether, and then he takes that 680 million and it's his.
Yeah, I mean, technically he's just going home. Like, he'll be retired. Like,
Exactly.
In 10 years, he'll be 39. I mean, I don't assume he's going to play until 40. I mean, not everybody's LeBron James, but
Right.
like, he can take that money and do whatever he wants. That's why they did it. And
Exactly.
no one can be mad at him because
no, not at
he's
all.
doing the Dodgers a favor. Like I said, they have 5 guys that can win the MVP on offense, and now you're telling them, oh, you can go get another guy. Why not?
Exactly. And speaking of MVPs and speaking of quarterbacks, I literally, right before we went live, I turned on the NFL Network and I saw that I think right now, especially with this Shohei Ohtani money going on, that we are finally hitting the peak that both you and I have been talking about, where these quarterbacks are peaking and this money is insane. It doesn't make sense compared to how the rest of a team gets paid. And when you have multiple quarterbacks starting on the same football team, then shouldn't the backup quarterback be making somewhere close to what the guy who's getting paid 50 million is making?
See, and it's kind of funny because like you said the NFL salary cap and how good it was, and when I heard you say that, I was like, actually, I think the NBA has the best salary cap. So
Yeah, you could be right.
the salary cap right now is like 220 million, I think, for the NFL. And there's
Right.
quarterbacks out there making 50 million a year, and a lot of them are not good.
Yep.
Like, those $50 million
Correct.
guys are not all good.
Correct.
So they're making
Yeah. I
roughly
mean,
25% of the cap.
yeah. I mean, at this point, Triggs, are even any of those guys who are paid that much, are they even playing at a high level? I don't even think there are any at this point.
Man, that's a good question.
I
I
really
can
think
look it
every
up
single
real
one of
quick.
them is hurt. And that includes Jalen Hurts.
QB salary.
I think the
Yeah.
one who's probably doing the best is probably Dak Prescott. I think he's one of the higher paid ones, but he's like 9th on the list, I believe. So he would probably be the best one of that group.
Yeah, he's 11th. Do you want to hear the top paid quarterbacks?
Oh, here comes a bunch of banged up bruisers.
Yep. Joe Burrow,
Hurt.
Justin Herbert, who just got hurt.
He's done.
Lamar's
okay,
doing
that's
a
healthy.
thing.
That's one.
Jalen Hurts.
Hurt.
Russell Wilson's meh.
Yeah, technically, yeah, he's not playing well, so he's X'd out on this as well.
Kyler Murray just came back.
So he still counts as hurt.
Deshaun Watson, hurt.
He's done.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, yeah, Matthew Stafford was hurt. Josh Allen is playing pretty well, so we'll give him. So that's 2. And I think Mahomes is hurt somehow, some way that's not being disclosed. So I consider him, or just flat out, you can just say he's just not playing good. So, and again, I don't think the long term on Mahomes is that much longer than where we are now.
Yeah, and all those guys are making $40 million. Let me just name the next 3 or the next 4 for you.
Yep.
And I'll rapid fire. Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins.
Wow. The only one of those 4 that I like are Cousins.
But all 4 of those guys are hurt.
They are. Absolutely. So it makes no sense to be paying guys anywhere close to 40 million. It right now, I mean, that's truly the case. Maybe 30 million for your highest end quarterback per year, but clearly not 40 or 50.
And that's why I say, like, the NBA Players Association and the league got it right. You can pay 3 three and a half max players on your team.
Okay.
Like, let's use the Bucks. They have Giannis, Dame Lillard, Chris Middleton was a max player when he got signed.
Yep.
And so, like, and then you can also fill out your roster. Like, with the NFL, we just named all these quarterbacks, and what do most of those have in common? They're all hurt, and their teams are horrible because the one guy is hurt.
Yes. They don't have the money to invest it elsewhere where they should have been able to. Like, look at the Chiefs. If they would have had the money to keep Tyreek Hill, they'd be better. If Daniel Jones didn't get weird and had more money to give to Saquon Barkley, I think that would have been a better situation. Maybe they go out and spend money on a big name wide receiver like a DeAndre Hopkins or a Devontae Adams-esque kind of player at some point. I think that's what it takes.
Even with that, though, look at Devontae Adams. He left Green Bay and got his big money deal, right?
Yep.
And the Raiders are horrible when they don't. There's no one throwing it to them, and then on top of that, their number one quarterback gets hurt, and they're even worse.
Yes.
Like, so even a Joe Burrow, the Bengals are not. I mean, they're okay, but they're not very good, and they put a lot of money into those wide receivers and Joe Mixon. So it's like
that's money that could have gone to the offensive line or the defense.
Yep. There's no reason to carry 3 number one wide receivers. There just isn't.
No.
You can go away with one great wide receiver. Look at Minnesota. Minnesota's doing it the right way. Justin Jefferson, and then you got a couple of rookie guys, a couple low money guys. And boom, you're a playoff team.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. And you spent the money, I believe, or is he still on the rookie deal of TJ Hawkinson? Is that still rookie money?
That's a good question. I can check.
Yeah. Because that would be one that I would absolutely invest in. That is a very tough position, but I still think Minnesota will still have leverage because of Hawkinson's health.
He was extended, but he does not make very much.
Okay. That's a win.
Yeah, he's on the rookie deal right now, but he was extended next year to 2027, making roughly like $10 million.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a win for both sides then.
In 2027, he makes $17 million.
Oh, well, that's something to scoff at. I'm very happy for what he's got with that, and for the Minnesota Vikings to say, okay, at that point he is worth that. Will he be playing at that high a level? He might be. He might be taking that hockey stick climb in his career, kind of like Travis Kelce did early on.
Right, and that's just stuff that bugs me about the NFL. Is like, no offense to TJ Hawkinson, but your tight end should not be making $17 million. If I don't think Devontae Adams should be making 20, that's nuts. And I know it's 4 or 5 years from now, but like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of money when you have to spread it 50 ways across your team. That's where it becomes a lot. It's not like we shouldn't be paying these guys a lot. It's more like that should be the case, but I think the cap for these teams should almost be doubled.
Yeah. I mean, if the billionaires, if they have enough money to pay like Roger Goodell $50 million or whatever his ridiculous salary is, some of these caps can go up by a lot.
Exactly. I believe Roger Goodell is basically considered the 33rd owner of the NFL, except he doesn't have a team. So like spot on. That's where a guy like that needs to basically realize, hey, these billionaires, these guys who can afford to fire coach after coach after coach, player after player after player. Look at the fire sale that David Tepper is doing in Carolina, and he's going to fire more players. He's going to unload Bryce Young 2 years from now, or even next year, or do something. Bryce Young is done. He is not an NFL quarterback. So yeah, like something needs to be done where these salary caps need to just go way, way up if guys like David Tepper can do basically whatever they want and have no repercussions except for having a crummy football team.
Right. And that's one of the things, and this goes back to baseball and basketball, but oh, my voice is starting to go.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. You
We'll
can
wrap
hear
it
it
up
like
here soon.
dipping, right?
I know. I
Um,
know.
but like with the NBA, they have a rule in place that it's the kind of like the anti-tanking rule where
Yeah.
teams have to spend a certain amount of money.
Yep.
And like the thing with the MLB, and this is why that Otani contract blew my mind when I read it. He's making more than like 8 complete teams just by himself
Wow.
per year.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's where
And the
baseball is going to
Brewers,
get kind
yes,
of
are
screwed
one of
up.
those.
Yeah, the Brewers are definitely one of those for sure. But I think that's where you're going to have something in place because at some point, I mean, we can't just play Moneyball anymore. Like something else has to evolve in a way to bring in some checks and balances because a team like what the Dodgers are doing and what the Yankees are going to do to replicate that is going to start to run crazy. And you're only going to have 5 teams that are capable of really doing anything from a year to year basis.
Right. And that's and the defense on that I hear every year is, oh, well, Tampa Bay is in every year, or Kansas City won the World Series 10 years ago or whatever it is. And it's like,
Right.
and the Brewers get in the playoffs every year. And it's like, then why do you fire your coaches or, like little stuff like that? If they're doing their job, like they might as well have a lifetime job if you can get the Brewers in the playoffs every year.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
know Council left, but still.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. Was hey, if Council is starting to figure it out with the cap that he has, and yet put in a team into the playoffs every single year, you gotta probably unload for that guy because he's doing it at such a high level compared to all the other teams like the Braves and the Dodgers and the Astros. So yeah, that's where my feeling was with that. But again, it definitely hurt to see him go to a team just south of Milwaukee. So yeah, it's a little rough. But yeah. But hey, I know your voice is going, and you definitely need to rest up. Let's wrap it up for tonight. What video game you got behind you, bud?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
All right. Don't make fun of me.
Oh no.
Now that I sound exactly like Kermit the Frog. But
Yeah. It's a Muppets game. Oh, it's
no,
Pokemon Stadium for the
Pokemon.
N64.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely the game where I would get to the end and whatever that elite squad of people you had to go up against, I could not basically get past the second person. I think there was like 4 or 6 of them, and I couldn't even get past the second person. I was like, oh, this is just crazy hard. To me, that was my version of Mike Tyson Punch Out. Was Pokemon Stadium for the N64. It was way too tough. I couldn't get through.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep. So that
No.
was it. And I'm like, yep, never playing this game
I
again.
beat
I'm
both of
done.
those. So
Oh, wow. There you go, man. That is
it's
round
so
of
weird.
applause for Triggs.
Yeah. It's actually it's kind of funny because like every couple of years someone will bring up Mike Tyson's Punch Out and then I'll have to go play it and beat him. And
Yep.
I did it like Facebook reminded me when I did it last because it popped up as a memory.
Nice. Nice.
I'll find the post and then
Oh, there we go.
I'll share it to you.
Nice. Yeah, that would be awesome. We will post that on No Debate Sports Facebook page and Twitter page as well because that's a life goal accomplishment right there is to beat Mike Tyson Punch Out. So that's pretty baller. Real quick with the belt, I'm sporting the Star Wars belt. Yeah, it's a cool belt. So yeah, there we go. That's our belt for the show. So there we go. So yeah, so that's what we got for tonight. Pretty good stuff. Little tough with our boy DJ TRIGGS under the weather, but you can still see us here every Monday and Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central. Facebook, YouTube. I think there was a little glitch with us today on Twitter. We'll get that up and good for next week. We got some more podcasting stuff in the works that we are working on behind the scenes, and we're looking to have that ready for you probably come January. So got some cool work going on there, and it's pretty good stuff. So I'll take this one so TRIGGS can save his voice. But great show tonight for your boy DJ TRIGGS, myself, Steve Metrics. We'll see you next time, and that's No Debate.